Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Zolpidem. So, what is Zolpidem? Zolpidem is commonly known as Ambien. It is going to be an imidazopyridine derivative. It was approved by the FDA in 1993, and its main use is going to be as a sleep medication. So, it's going to be a hypnotic and sedative. The reason we want to know the side effects and adverse effects of Zolpidem is because it's prescribed to about 4% of the US adult population. That's a pretty large amount. And because it's being administered to so many different people, we want to know what taking this medicine is actually going to look like. So now looking at the physiochemical properties, we see that it has a log P of 2.42. It has a pKa of 6.16. It has a molecular weight of 307.4 grams per mole, and it is about 92% bound to plasma proteins. Up here, we have the Zolpidem structure, which I made in ChemDraw. So we also want to talk about toxicity. The LD50 found in mice via oral administration is going to be 695 milligrams per kilograms. And back to this, the log P is basically going to mean that it is lightly lipophilic. So moving on to the pharmacokinetics and the toxicokinetics, like I mentioned earlier, oral administration is one way in which it's administered, but there's also intravenous administration. For the oral administration, the bioavailability is gonna be around 70%. The dose per day is either 10 milligrams or 12 milligrams. The volume of distribution is going to range from 0.54 to 0.68 liters per kilogram in humans. Like I said earlier, it is going to be 92% bound to plasma proteins and 66% bound to albumin. And that means that either the 92% and 62% won't actually be metabolized, excreted, and it won't interact with receptors. As for elderly patients, they do have a reduced volume of distribution. For metabolism, there are three routes of metabolism for sulpidem, and they are going to be either oxidation of methyl groups or hydroxylation. Moving on to elimination, there is going to be a clearance of about 0.24 to 0.27 milliliters per minute per kilogram. Once again, there is a reduced clearance in very elderly patients, and we know that it is excreted in the urine. So moving on to the pharmacodynamics and the toxicodynamics, there are three different types of benzodiazepine receptors. And these are going to be BZ1, BZ2, and BZ3. For BZ1, they are found in the cerebellum and the cerebral cortex. BZ2 are found in the spinal cord and the cerebral cortex, and the BZ3 are found in the peripheral tissues. We're going to focus on BZ1 because that's actually what Zolpidem is going to bind to. Once it binds, it's going to increase the GABA transmission. And because GABA works to reduce the activity of neurons or reduce neuronal excitation, it is going to cause that sedative or hypnotic effect that we talked about earlier. Some common side effects are going to be headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, lethargy, depression, and constipation. But we also have to consider that with Zolpidem, we can also get severe side effects, which include suicidal ideation, aggressive behavior, impaired mental alertness, even the following day, hallucinations, amnesia, anaphylaxis, angioedema, withdrawal, eating distortion, sleep driving, and sensory distortion. Uh, Today, we're going to be looking at season 2 of Big Little Lies. In season 2, Celeste, one of the main characters, loses her husband, and they had a very abusive relationship. So, after his passing, she basically starts to have a lot of nightmares about him, and she has trouble sleeping. So, she begins taking Ambien. Um, after she started taking Ambien, she realizes that she's forgetting a lot of instances, and she's doing things that are out of the ordinary for her. For example, she's actually shown getting into a car and driving, and then she gets into an accident. And then when she's talking to her friend about it later, she tells her that she doesn't even remember having actually started driving. So it was very confusing for her. She didn't really understand what was going on. And then something similar happens when she spends the night with a man, and she forgets that he's there, and her children come home with their grandmother, and all four of them are shocked to see him there because she didn't even remember that he was brought um, that she brought him back home. So as for yeah, sorry. So she didn't know that she actually brought him back home, so she was a little bit shocked to find him. So now we're gonna talk about whether this is possible or not. Based on the research I did, I would say that yes, this is possible. One study actually focused on the correlation or correlating Zolpidem use to motor vehicle collision, and although it's hard to actually assume that motor vehicle collision is caused by sulfidum use, we can still talk about their findings, which are that plasma concentrations of sulfidum were clinically relevant even the morning after taking it. They found that both elderly patients and women had a higher plasma concentration of sulfidem than men and younger individuals. There were also 2 cases of homicide. In the first one, a 45-year-old man killed his wife. He was taking 10 milligrams of sulfidem daily. He was suffering from depression and insomnia. And he does not have any recollection of having killed his wife. He was described as being out of it and not really acting like himself the days before and the days following the murder. He was reported to have been unable to sleep, having been distraught and agitated. As for the 62-year-old woman, she also killed her spouse, and but she actually took more than the recommended amount. So we know that he was taking 10 milligrams, but she probably took around 30 to 40 within, I would say, less than a 24-hour span. So I think it was the night before and the morning after. I mean, the morning of the murder and the night before, she took a combined amount of 3 to 4 pills of sulfidem. It was very similar for her. She basically reported being in and out of consciousness, but she did remember some things, but it was almost like she was hallucinating because she she was sort of aware that she was doing it, but she claimed that her husband was asking her to kill him and to hit him. Um, but she claims that it seemed very unreal to her that it was all happening at all. So overall, I would say that it is possible that Celeste suffered from amnesia regarding the man who slept over at her house, and it's also possible that she drove while asleep. We talked about adverse effects, and this is actually these are actually some of the severe side effects that we that have been recorded. So there's sleep driving, there's amnesia, and there's hallucination, impaired mental alertness, which are all signs that she actually showed. Um, Not only have these effects been previously observed, but we also have to take into consideration that women do have a higher plasma concentration of zolpidem. So it's very likely that it could have been in her system and she could have been suffering from all of these side effects. So yeah, that's about it. These are going to be my references, and that is it. Thank you so much.